Yeah, good. Half of you are awake, that's all right. All right, so the title of my talk is How Great is Our God? So today I'm hoping to be a little bit personal and upfront with you guys. This talk's been on my mind for a little bit, and it's something I'm interested in, and I think it's quite profound, and I want to share it with you guys today. But first, I want to start with a prayer because I'm a bit nervous. Hey God, help me. You've been aware of this talk for far longer than I have. You've been aware of everyone in this room before we were even born. You've been aware of us before you hung the very stars in the sky. And that's really cool to think about. And that's what we're going to look into today. So God, I pray and hope that you'll fill me with your Spirit and your words. I don't want them to see me because that's not who they need to see. They need to see you. So please tailor-make this message for every person here and their struggles. In your name, amen. So I wanted to ask the question, how great is our God? I know that we sing that song called How Great is Our God. And if you're unfamiliar and you're now expecting me to sing it for you, you're in the wrong place. But on a serious note, think about that question. Can we quantifiably measure how great God is? Well, unfortunately, no, we can't, but let me provide some context for you. Does anyone here know what the speed of light is? It's fast, right? Does anyone know exactly what it is? Kilometers an hour. We're not in America here, sir. That's very close, or it could be it. Does anyone know the exact figure? All right.
It is 297,000 kilometers per second.
I was going to round that up, actually, but yes. It's around 300,000 kilometers per second. So that's pretty fast, right? Yeah, congrats, Lucas. Yeah. I was hoping that at least one person here would know what the speed of light was. Anyway, 300,000 kilometers a second rounded up. That's really fast, right? Just hearing that makes me feel uncomfortable. And I'm a guy who's heavily into cars and statistics like that, so I'm constantly reading statistics like, oh, the new Lamborghini does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 2.9 seconds or something. And that's so fast, I think that's like really quick, but God's just looking on just like, you think that's fast? Really? Like, that's really nothing. I mean, the first thing I created was light, and it came racing out of my mouth at 300,000 kilometers every second. Now bear with me, because we're going to go even further with this concept. When we go astronomical, we need a new form of measurement, because everything's just so much bigger up there. So scientists came up with what they call astronomical units, or AUs for short. One of these AUs can be converted to 150 million kilometers, so that's pretty far. We'd all agree on that, right? The length of our little solar system, which should come up on the screen, there it is, from the sun to way out past Pluto, remember that planet that's not actually a planet, anyway, is 122 AUs long. So that's from the sun out past the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud. 122 AUs long. So crunching some quick numbers, that works out that our solar system is 18.3 billion kilometers long. To cover that amount of distance, to give you some context, you'd have to travel from Sydney to New York 500,000 times. Yet still, even considering this enormous statistic, out in the massive voids of space, we can go further. As of a year or so ago, the largest known star in the universe was found. Astrophysicists called it UY Scuti, and there'll be a picture of that too. It's next to the previously dubbed largest star in the world, VY Canis Majoris. UY Scuti is a red hypergiant, which already sounds menacing enough. And while this star is only 30 times the mass of our sun, which is still a very big number, it's measured to be 2,364,000,000 kilometers if you measured the diameter of that star. So, do you want to know what that's equivalent to? You could fit 1,700 of our our suns into UY Scuti. And that's one ball of burning gas out there in the vastness of space. If you got in this, the Thrust SSC, aka the fastest land-moving vehicle on the planet, and went flat out, driving at 1,228 kilometers an hour, it would take you almost 220 years to drive the diameter of this star. And you're traveling the speed of sound, by the way, and it would take you almost 2.5 lifetimes to complete the journey to travel the diameter of that star. Remember how I said before that when we go into space, we need a new form of measurement? And I mentioned AUs. Well, when we go even bigger, even AUs don't make the cut. They're not big enough. So astrophysicists came up with something else. Remember the speed of light we mentioned earlier? 300,000 kilometers a second, which is really fast. Well, let me ask you another question. Does anyone here know what a light year is? Yeah, that's right. A light year. So it's pretty straightforward. It's the amount of distance light can travel in one Earth year. So considering that every second light has traveled 300,000 kilometers, you'd imagine that a light year would be pretty far, right? Well, you'd be correct. In fact, in 1 year, light would have traveled almost 9.5 trillion kilometers. Do you also remember the measurement we mentioned earlier, the astronomical units? Well, light can travel 63,000 AUs in 1 year. That's how insignificant even AUs have become now. So let's apply this to something, the Milky Way galaxy. Some of you are probably aware of this space entity up in the vastness of space, but for those who don't know, this is basically our little cul-de-sac in the universe, our little neighborhood, if you will. I apologize, I keep calling it little. It really isn't. It's absolutely enormous. None of you will really comprehend what I'm about to tell you about this thing, but I'll tell you anyway. This thing's diameter measures in at 105,700 light years long. This means that it's 6.6 billion AUs long. And this means that it measures in at just over 1 quintillion kilometers long. If none of you have heard of that before, that's okay. I didn't either. By the way, the order of measurement goes million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, and then quintillion, which is pretty cool. So this thing is unimaginably just enormous, right? You couldn't really wrap your head around how big this thing is. Now you may be thinking, Brody, why are you telling us all these massive numbers that could in no way be measured here on Earth and that mean basically nothing to us? Well, consider this. God created all of this like it was absolutely nothing. Hang on to that because we'll come back to it. Now, there are a few things in this world that I hate. After all, hate is a very strong word, judging from all the reactions just then. But I hate the label, good Christian guy. And I hate the fact that it's on me. And most of my classmates will agree with me. It sucks having this label on you. This label has been on me my whole life. And I think it's because I've grown up with a pretty good life. I'm not trying to brag, it's just I've grown up in a Christian home, by Christian parents. I've been to this Christian school almost my whole life, and I go to and am involved in church every week. I've been pretty shielded from all the hassles and stuff that's out there in the world. And it's because of this that I've had people in this room say to me, "Oh, you're such a nice, good guy, and you're so godly. I'm so much worse than you, and God would never save me because I've gone too far and I'm not good enough for God." And this couldn't be further from the truth. In today's society, we miss this, but God outlines it in the Bible clearly. We've all heard this verse, but I'll say it again, and hopefully at least one person will see it in a new light. Romans 3:23 says, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God." All have sinned. It says it right there. I've sinned, everyone's sinned, the teachers have sinned, everyone on the planet has sinned. It's an inescapable fact of life. This means that to God, all sin is equal. In society, we think that some things are worse than others. Would you agree? Like, please excuse the extreme example, but if someone kills someone else, that's a very horrible, heinous thing to do, right? It's worse than merely just lying to someone, or being jealous of someone's new phone, or swearing at someone who cut you off in traffic. But to God, it's all the same. Don't miss that. If I lie to Lincoln, or steal from Wesley, or swear at Milo, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's all sin. All of these things, regardless of their size, really just reflect where our heart is spiritually. And this means that I'm no better than any of you here today. If you think, oh, Brody's got it all figured out, he goes to church, he doesn't swear in public, he doesn't do all those awful things, all those sinful things, you're so wrong. I'm so broken. I'm so disgusting. I'm so filthy. I'm so sinful. And I sin thousands of times a day. It doesn't make me any better than you guys. Thinking that you've done so many sinful things and that God would never save you. It's not true. The point is, I feel so hypocritical standing up here speaking to all of you about God because I'm sinful and I'm broken as well. I'm nowhere near where I ought to be. Let me tell you something, I shouldn't be saved. God should cast me aside and say, Brody, you're horrible and disgusting. I mean, you've sinned so many times. There's no way you could be with me. Sin can't be with me, so therefore neither can you. And neither can any of us. That's what he should say to us. That's what he should say to all of us, but he doesn't. He doesn't look upon us with pity and disgust and resentment as he should. As he should. He's entitled to, but he doesn't. In fact, the God of the universe, the God that spoke our planet and our enormous solar system and all those enormous galaxies, including ours, into existence, the God that breathes stars and galaxies that are incomprehensibly enormous, the God that created these enormous, immensely powerful things up there in the vastness of space like it was absolutely nothing. The God that keeps it all in perfect harmony with itself and keeps our Earth exactly the right distance away from the sun so we won't burn or freeze to death. That God who shouldn't care about us insignificant, stupid, sinful little humans loved us so much that he willingly sent his son down to earth and watched him die for us. That is truly how great our God is. The God that created all of that, like it was just so insignificant, and we can't measure it. He cares about us that much. Please don't miss this point. We can never possibly fathom or even remotely comprehend the paradox that is God's transcendent, never-ending power and his eternal longing and desire for a deep personal relationship with each and every one of us. Think about that. It's very counterintuitive, isn't it? He's so big and he's so powerful, and he shouldn't care about us, but he does. Let me translate that for you. The God of the universe that has limitless power would do anything to have a personal connection with you. God wants us all in the kingdom with him. He has an eternal longing for you, a passion that will never grow cold. A love that is as long as the east is from the west. A desire that can tear planets out of their orbit. To quote the song Reckless Love, there's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. God would do all of this for us broken, disgusting, despicable, filthy people, sinners. After all we've done, he would do all of that for us. Vision Radio is a Christian radio station, and they say that the Bible will have been translated into every known language in about 2 years' time. So around the end of 2021, the Bible will have gone to everyone. The Bible says in Matthew 24:14, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come." The end will come after the gospel's gone to the whole world. I'm not putting an exact date on the return of God. No one can. What I am saying is God is coming really soon. And there's never been a better time to say yes to him. It's just around the corner. As a little reminder to those who have accepted God, but more to the people who haven't, you're saying yes to a God who quite literally breathed the universe into existence. You're saying yes to a God who created light to travel 300,000 kilometers a second. You're saying yes to a God that created these enormous stars up in space that literally shatter any scale of measurement. You're saying yes to a God that created these enormous things that had an extremely small chance that we'd even get to see them. What do you think the chance is that Elon Musk or Neil Armstrong even had the idea that, could we make it up there one day? And we did, and we actually found these enormous things up in the sky that potentially could never have been found. And God created all of it just so we could marvel at it, even though we might not. The God that has literally endless power and can summon any of it, any amount of it, whenever he wants, would rather watch his son die for you. This is truly how great our God is. To wrap this up, I challenge you to test this out with God. Pray a simple prayer. Hey God, I know that you're all-powerful and made everything, but somehow you want a relationship with little old me on this little old planet in this little old galaxy and so forth. Please be with me in my life. I want to try you out. Thanks, God. I encourage you to go home and read bits and pieces of the Bible. God doesn't want us to blindly believe in him just because he created all these enormous things and he's so great and mighty. He wants us to taste and see that he is good. God has big shoulders. He hates seeing you hurt. He wants to help you with all your struggles, your anxiety, depression, heartache, workload, and everything you find tough. And he wants to celebrate with you when things have gone really well and you're just crushing life. Try reading the miracles throughout the Bible, like Elijah and the showdown at Mount Carmel in 1 Kings 18. The story of the fiery furnace, that's a good one, Daniel 3. The resurrection of Lazarus in John 11. Paul being bitten by a snake in Acts 28, verse 1 to 6. The overthrowing of Jericho in Joshua 5, verse 13 to 6, verse 20. These are all examples of God's power in action. God came through for these people in the Bible in a really powerful way. And this same power that he used can still help you in your daily lives as well, believe it or not. The same power that he threw down the walls of Jericho with, that he was in the fiery furnace that was cranked up 7 times hotter than usual. The God that shoots fire down from heaven to consume an altar and lick up the water that was around it as well. All of these stories reflect the character and profundity of our God. But I encourage you to go home and see for yourself that while God is great and powerful, he wants you. Go home and read an interesting story in the Bible. Do it by yourself. Spend some time talking to God like he's your best friend who will never leave you no matter what you do. Because he won't. That's what he is. He won't leave you. And he's always there for a chat. He loves chatting to you. Just talk to him like he's there in the room, because he is. Unload, rant about a bad day. He'll listen to you. He always does. He's always listening, and he always wants you to cry out to him. Just remember that. Let me pray to close. Hey God, thank you. Thank you for being with me up the front and steadying my nerves so you could speak to these guys. Thank you for being able to use me, a little insignificant sinner that shouldn't be used. Thank you for creating all the incredible, enormous, and amazing vastness of space for us to marvel at your endless power. Please be with each and every one of us as we go about our busy lives. And help us to remember that even though you are so great and so powerful, you are still always there by our side. Please help us to remember that the power you use to create the universe is the same power that you can use to help us in our lives. We thank you so much for all that you've done for us, and we look forward to what you've got in store for us. Thanks, God. Amen.